It was a Thursday night, one of those rainy evenings that feels like the world is whispering secrets through the raindrops. I remember it so clearly because it was the night I realized everything was about to change. Jessica had left the house earlier, wearing her usual black dress, but this time something felt off. The atmosphere between us had been tense for weeks, as if the air itself was strangling us. She didn't even bother with her typical half-hearted goodbye. She just grabbed her purse, slung her jacket over her shoulder, and said, "Don't wait up. It's a late night with the girls." There was something in the way she said it, casual but almost rehearsed, like she had practiced it until it sounded just right. I didn't respond, but a knot formed in my stomach. Call it instinct, or maybe just knowing someone so well after years together, but I knew something was wrong. I didn't have proof yet, but even the way her heels clicked down the hallway felt like she was leaving something behind. I sat in the living room, the TV on but barely registering what was playing, my thoughts constantly drifting back to her, wondering where she really was. At some point I picked up my phone and sent her a message, "Have fun tonight." No response. Hours passed, and by midnight I couldn't sit still any longer. My gut told me to check her location, something I had never felt the need to do before. Trust was something I believed we had mastered. But when I opened the app, my heart nearly stopped. She was nowhere near where she said she'd be. In fact, she was across town, parked at an address I didn't recognize. I stared at that little dot on the map, each second feeling like an eternity. Maybe she was picking something up on her way home. Maybe it was an after-party. My brain fed me excuses, trying to rationalize it, but my hands were already trembling. I couldn't sit there any longer. Grabbing my keys, I got in the car, the drive a blur of headlights, slick streets, and an overwhelming sense of dread. My heart was racing, part of me hoping I'd arrive and find out it was all just a misunderstanding, but another part of me, the part one didn't want to acknowledge, knew exactly what was waiting for me. When I finally pulled up to the address, it was a random apartment building, definitely not her friend's place, and nowhere I'd ever been before. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the night was unsettlingly quiet. I parked a little further down the street and just sat there, staring at the building, hoping somehow it would reveal the truth without me having to confront it. And then I saw her. She walked out of the building, her hair slightly disheveled, makeup smudged in a way that couldn't be from just a night out with friends. At first she didn't notice me, but when she turned towards her car, I saw her face. She was smiling. Not just any smile, but a satisfied one, the kind people wear when they think they've gotten away with something. My stomach twisted, and I couldn't stay hidden any longer. Without thinking, I got out of the car, slamming the door behind me, the sound shattering the quiet street like a gunshot. She spun around, her eyes locking with mine for a brief second before that smile vanished, replaced by something I had never seen in her before: panic. "Tom, what are you doing here?" she stammered, her voice unsteady. I took a deep breath, trying to keep the anger from boiling over. "That's what I should be asking you, Jessica. What the hell are you doing here?" She glanced around, as if searching for an escape, but there wasn't one. The game was over, and we both knew it. "Tom, it's not what it looks like," she said, her voice slipping into that manipulative tone she used whenever she was cornered. But then she said something that made my blood boil. It was just harmless fun. A one-time thing. It didn't mean anything. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Harmless fun. A one-time thing. She looked at me like she expected me to just accept it, as if her betrayal could be dismissed with a few careless words. I stood there, rain starting to pick up again, soaking me through, but I didn't move. She waited for me to react, probably expecting me to yell or lose control, but all I could say was something I never imagined I'd hear myself say. "You think a night with someone else is just harmless?" She opened her mouth to reply, but I raised my hand to stop her. My voice was steady, but inside, I felt like I was about to explode. "You come home tonight, and you'll find our marriage certificate ripped to shreds. Got it?" Her eyes widened in shock, but I didn't wait for a response. I turned and walked back to my car, leaving her standing there in the rain. That night, I barely slept. The house felt colder and emptier than ever before, even though it looked exactly the same as when I had left earlier. Everything was about to change, and I was the only one who saw it coming. I barely remember the drive home, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The streetlights blurred into streaks of light and shadow as my mind kept replaying the moment outside that apartment, the look on Jessica's face when she realized she'd been caught, her smug confidence crumbling right in front of me. but more than her panic, it was her words that kept stabbing at me. Harmless fun. That's what she called it. A night with another man, sneaking behind my back, and she had the audacity to look me in the eye and call it no big deal, as if it hadn't just shattered everything we had built. I clenched my jaw, trying to push the fury down, but it was no use. By the time I got home, I wasn't thinking straight. I stormed into the house, slamming the door so hard it rattled the walls. Everything looked exactly as it had when I left, but now it felt foreign, unfamiliar. Now, walking into the house felt like stepping into a stranger's home. Every photo, every piece of furniture, even the lingering scent of her perfume seemed false. I couldn't stand it. I grabbed the first thing that represented our life together, a framed wedding photo from the living room shelf. In the picture, she was smiling at me as if I were the only person that mattered, her eyes full of what I once thought was love. My stomach turned at the sight. The frame slipped from my hands, crashing to the floor, the glass shattering into jagged pieces, just like everything else in our life. I wasn't done. I stormed into the study and yanked open the drawer where we kept important papers, and there it was, our marriage certificate. It was once a symbol of something significant, a promise, a bond. Trembling with anger, I held it for a moment before tearing it right down the middle, the ripping sound strangely satisfying, almost final. But I didn't stop. I kept tearing it into smaller and smaller pieces until it was nothing but confetti scattered across the floor. The house was eerily silent, except for the sound of my heavy breathing. I stood there for what felt like hours, staring at the torn pieces at my feet. My thoughts raced, but my mind felt blank. She didn't deserve that certificate. She didn't deserve the vows we made, or the life we had built. If she thought she could walk back in here and act like it was all a misunderstanding, she was in for a shock. I paced around the living room, running my hands through my hair, trying to calm the storm inside my head, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. How long had this been going on? Was it really a one-time thing, or had she been sneaking around for months, years even? Every late night, every work trip, every text she brushed off as just the girls now felt poisoned. By 3 a.m., I had lost track of how many times I replayed the events of the night in my head. I kept waiting to wake up, hoping this was all some horrible nightmare, but it wasn't. And the worst part, I wasn't even sure I wanted to confront her again, not yet. I needed more. My eyes landed on her laptop sitting open on the kitchen counter. She usually kept it locked, but tonight, of all nights, she had left it wide open, as if she didn't expect me to notice, as if she had grown too comfortable in her lies. My hands hovered over the keyboard, hesitating for a brief moment. I had never invaded her privacy before, not once, but the Jessica I thought I knew had already destroyed everything. The messages were easy to find. Too easy. Her browser was still open to her email, and there it was, his name, Matt. A string of emails, casual at first, then flirty, and then, as I scrolled further, explicit. Each word was like a punch to the gut. But it didn't stop there. There were photos too. Pictures of them laughing together in a way I hadn't seen her laugh in years. Then, a photo of her in the same black dress she'd worn tonight, standing outside a bar, leaning into him like he was her whole world. I slammed the laptop shut, my chest tightening. Suspecting something was one thing, but seeing it laid out like that was a different kind of pain. The kind that creeps under your skin and festers. As I sat there, staring at the closed laptop, I heard the front door creak open. Jessica was home. Her heels clicked against the hardwood floor, echoing through the silence of the house. She didn't know yet. She had no idea what she was about to walk into. I didn't move, just waited, sitting there, for her to face the destruction she'd caused. When she finally stepped into the living room and saw me, her eyes widened, but not in guilt, not in shame. No, it was that same cool mask she always wore, like she thought she could talk her way out of anything. She didn't notice the shredded marriage certificate at first, not until she stepped on one of the torn pieces. Her gaze followed the trail of paper, and then her eyes met mine. I waited for her to say something, anything, an explanation, an apology, maybe even a plea for forgiveness. But instead, she crossed her arms, and in that same calm, icy tone from earlier, she said, "What's your problem, Tom?" It took everything in me not to explode right there. The way she spoke, so casual, so cold, it was the final spark that ignited the entire inferno. "What's my problem?" I repeated, standing up slowly, trying to contain the rage that was building up inside me. "You really want to know, Jessica? You think we're just going to stand here and have a little chat like nothing happened?" She rolled her eyes, her indifference plain as day, and tossed her purse onto the floor. "Tom, I'm tired. Can we do this in the morning? I don't have the energy for whatever this is right now. I took a step forward, the crunch of paper under my feet catching her attention again. Her eyes flicked down to the torn-up marriage certificate scattered across the floor, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of something in her expression, not fear, but irritation. "What the hell did you do?" she snapped, her voice sharp, more annoyed than upset. She stepped closer, kicking a piece of the torn certificate aside like it was nothing more than trash in her way. "I'm done playing this game, Jessica," I said, my voice low, barely controlled. "I know everything. I saw the messages. I know about Matt. I know about tonight, all of it." Her reaction wasn't what I expected. Instead of panic, she just sighed, like I had caught her in a small, inconvenient lie. "Tom, I already told you it was just a stupid night. A one-time thing. You're really going to tear up our marriage certificate over something that didn't even matter." She laughed, but it wasn't the laugh I remembered from when we were happy. It was bitter, hollow. "God, you're being so dramatic." I couldn't believe it. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even pretending. "Dramatic," I said, my voice rising as I felt the anger bubbling over. "You think this is me being dramatic? You lied to me, Jessica. You cheated on me. You've been sneaking around with some guy, and you have the audacity to stand here and act like it's no big deal." She shrugged, like I had just accused her of something trivial, not of destroying our marriage. "I don't know what you want me to say, Tom. It's not like I planned this. It just happened. Things between us haven't exactly been great for a while, and you know that." I blinked, trying to process her words. "You're seriously trying to blame me for this?" "I'm not blaming anyone," she replied, her voice so calm it made my skin crawl. "I'm just saying, maybe if you had paid more attention to me, we wouldn't be in this situation." That's when it hit me she didn't feel bad. Not at all. She wasn't sorry. She was flipping the whole thing, trying to make this my fault. Somehow, her cheating was my failure, my mistake for not being enough, for not noticing her more. The nerve she had to stand there, look me in the eyes, and tell me I should have done better while she was off messing around with someone else. For a split second, I considered screaming at her, telling her exactly how I felt about everything she had done, but the rage inside me changed. It wasn't a fiery anger anymore. It became cold, sharp, and clear. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to fight. It was over. "You know what, Jessica? You're right," I said quietly, surprised by how calm I sounded. "I haven't been paying enough attention. But now I see everything clearly." She looked at me, confused for a moment, her mouth slightly open like she wasn't sure what was coming next. "Tom, what are you?" "You thought a night with another guy was just harmless fun." I cut her off, my voice hard as steel. "Fine, you had your fun, but now you've lost me. You've lost this marriage." Her eyes widened as the realization began to sink in this wasn't going to go the way she thought. "Wait, Tom, don't be like this. You're blowing this way out of proportion. It didn't mean anything." I let out a bitter laugh. "Didn't mean anything? It meant everything, Jessica. Every lie you told, every time you made me feel like I was crazy for doubting you, for not trusting you, it meant something, all right, and I'm done pretending it didn't." For the first time that night, I saw her mask crack. The confidence, the indifference, it slipped for just a moment, replaced by a flicker of panic. She stepped toward me, reaching out with her hands, but I moved back. "Tom, wait. Let's talk about this. We can work through it, I swear. It was a mistake. I never meant to hurt you." I shook my head slowly, the weight of the entire disaster pressing down on me. "You didn't mean to hurt me? You didn't even care enough about me to think about hurting me. You made your choice the moment you walked into that guy's place tonight." Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, but no words came out. For the first time, she was speechless, and in that silence I realized it didn't matter anymore. The woman I had loved, the one I had married, wasn't standing in front of me anymore. She hadn't been for a long time. I turned my back on her and headed for the hallway. "I'll be gone by morning. This marriage is over." "Tom." "Stop," she yelled, her voice desperate now, no longer in control. "Where are you going? You can't just leave. We're married, you can't walk away like this." I paused in the doorway and turned to look at her one last time. "You destroyed this marriage long before I did, Jess. I'm just cleaning up the mess." With that, I walked out of the room, leaving her surrounded by the shattered pieces of our broken life. But I didn't leave right away. As I stepped into the hallway, Something inside me, maybe a need for closure, made me stay, just to see how she would react when she thought I wasn't looking. I stood just out of her sight, leaning against the wall, my heart pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I forced myself to stay still, listening. First there was silence. Then I heard her muttering to herself. She wasn't crying, not even close. Her voice was low, frustrated. Unbelievable, she hissed. All this over nothing. That word nothing hit me like a punch. To her, it was nothing. The cheating, the lies, the broken promises, they were all nothing to her. I felt my hands clench into fists, my nails digging into my palms, but I waited. I wanted to see what she would do next. Then I heard her pick up her phone, and my blood ran cold. She wasn't calling me to apologize, no, not even close. She was calling him Matt. Her tone shifted, becoming softer, more intimate, almost sickeningly sweet. Yeah, it's me. No, he found out she laughed. Actually laughed, like the whole thing was a joke. Yeah, he got all dramatic, threatened to leave. Can you believe that? My jaw tightened. I had never hated her more than I did in that moment, the way she talked about me, like I was some fool, like I was overreacting to her betrayal. The fact that she could be so calm, so indifferent after everything, it was beyond anything I had ever imagined. She kept talking. Don't worry, it'll blow over. I'll handle him. He's not going anywhere. Trust me, he'll be back by morning. He's too soft to actually leave. I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped back into the living room, the floor creaking under my feet. Her head snapped around, and the color drained from her face when she saw me standing there, staring at her. The phone was still pressed to her ear, but she was frozen, eyes wide like a deer caught in headlights. Hang up the phone, Jessica, I said, my voice deadly quiet. She didn't move. Her hand stayed glued to the phone, like she still thought she could fix this, still believed she could somehow control the situation. But I wasn't playing along anymore. I said, hang up. She fumbled with the phone, her hands shaking as she ended the call, and lowered it. She opened her mouth to say something, but I raised my hand to stop her. Don't, I warned, my voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. I heard everything. She swallowed hard, her eyes flickering with panic. Tom, You, what? I interrupted, stepping closer. You're going to lie again? Tell me this is all some big misunderstanding. That I'm overreacting? That it's my fault. Her mouth snapped shut, but I could see the wheels turning in her head, trying to come up with her next move. But for once, she had no script, no clever words to twist things around, to manipulate me. She'd always been good at that, making me doubt my own reality. But not this time. This time, I saw everything clearly. I was standing right here, I continued, my voice dangerously low. I heard you talking to him. I heard you laugh about it. You think this is a game? You think I'm a joke? Her eyes darted to the side, like she was searching for an escape, but there was nowhere to go. Not this time. She finally met my gaze again, her voice barely a whisper. Tom, I didn't mean it like that. I shook my head, cutting her off again. You meant every word. Don't insult me by pretending you didn't. You really think I'm too soft to leave? That I'll come crawling back to you after everything? For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. She knew she had pushed too far, crossed a line she couldn't step back from, but I wasn't done. You were never going to tell me the truth, were you? I said, my voice steady now, the anger turning into something colder. You were just going to keep lying, keep pretending everything was fine while you kept running around behind my back. She started to shake her head, but I stopped her with a look. And even now, after getting caught, you still don't care. You're not sorry. You're just sorry you got caught. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I could see her struggling to find something to say, some way to salvage the situation, to regain control. But there was nothing left. I was ready to leave tonight, I said, my voice calm but resolute. But now I'm going to make this hard for you, Jess, much harder than you ever imagined. Her eyes flashed with something panic, fear, maybe even anger, but she stayed quiet, waiting for whatever was coming next. I'm not just walking away and giving you what you want, I continued, stepping closer until I was right in front of her. You're going to feel the consequences of what you've done. You're going to watch everything fall apart, and this time you won't be able to talk your way out of it. She took a shaky step back, her confidence shattered. Tom, wait. We can talk about this. I smiled, but it wasn't the kind of smile she had ever seen from me before. It was cold, final. We're done talking, Jessica. This is the last conversation we'll ever have. With that, I turned and left the house, leaving her standing there, realizing just how much control she had lost. Outside, the rain had started falling again, but this time I didn't mind. The cold air hit me, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt free. I didn't know what the next day would bring or how I would make her face the consequences of her choices, but I was certain of one thing: this wasn't over. The rain intensified as I made my way to the car, each drop soaking through my clothes, but I didn't care. The cold outside mirrored the storm churning inside me. I wasn't thinking about my destination, just that I needed to escape her, escape the house that had become a stage for her deceit. Even as I drove, I couldn't stop seeing the image of Jessica standing there, her face crumbling under the weight of the truth. She thought she could smooth things over with a few lies and a fake apology. But not this time. This time, I'd ensure she fully understood the consequences of her betrayal. I pulled into a gas station parking lot, the rain streaking down the windshield, blurring the neon lights outside. My hands were shaking, but it wasn't from the cold. The adrenaline was still coursing through me, but underneath that, something else was beginning to form a plan. She believed she could brush this off, that her little mistake would disappear, that I was too soft, too weak to fight back. But I wasn't going to let her walk away from this unscathed. Everything she cared about, everything she thought she could protect with lies, I was going to tear apart, just as she had shredded our marriage. I pulled out my phone. My first instinct was to call Mike, my best friend, the one who had always been there for me. He didn't know what was happening yet, but I needed someone on my side, someone I could count on. The phone rang twice before his groggy voice answered. "Tom, man, it's like 4 a.m. What's going on?" I leaned back against the car seat, staring at the rain-soaked roof of the gas station. "Mike, I need your help, and I need it now." His tone immediately shifted, concern creeping into his voice. "What happened? Are you okay?" "No," I replied bluntly. "Jessica's been cheating on me. I found out tonight." There was a pause, followed by a low whistle. "Man, I'm so sorry. I knew things weren't great between you two, but I didn't think. Damn, what do you need from me?" I clenched my jaw, focusing on the next step. I need to get my stuff out of the house before she tries to twist things, and I need to figure out how to make sure she doesn't screw me over in the divorce. Mike didn't hesitate. "I've got your back, man. I'll be there in an hour. Just don't do anything stupid before I get there, all right?" I hung up, feeling a small sense of relief knowing Mike was with me. But there was still more to do. This wasn't going to be just a messy breakup. I was going to hit her where it hurt. Scrolling through my contacts, I found the name I hadn't wanted to use until now: Ben, my lawyer. I never thought I'd need him for something like this, but life has a way of blindsiding you when you least expect it. It rang once before Ben answered, groggy but polite. "Tom, what's going on?" "Ben, I need your expertise. Jessica's been unfaithful. I'm filing for divorce." There was a brief pause, but no surprise in his voice when he replied, "All right. First things first, don't leave the house permanently. If you walk out now, she could claim abandonment. Stay on the property, at least for now, until we sort this out." I nodded to myself, the legal side of things snapping into focus. I'm not letting her spin this. She's going to try to make me the villain, but I need to make sure I keep control. What are my options? How do I make sure I don't lose everything in this? Ben's tone was calm, professional. "We'll make sure she doesn't. But first, gather evidence, texts, emails, anything that proves the affair. We'll build your case around that. The courts take infidelity seriously, Tom. You've got a good shot at coming out of this with what's fair, but we need to be smart." I rubbed my temples, the weight of everything starting to settle in. I hadn't considered the courts, the paperwork, the legal battle this would turn into, but I was ready to fight. "All right, I'll do what needs to be done." I hung up and sat in silence for a moment, my breath fogging up the inside of the car. The rain was still coming down hard, but it didn't feel chaotic anymore. It felt like it was washing away the confusion and anger, leaving behind a sense of clarity I hadn't had in years. I knew what I had to do next. I drove back to the house, my mind racing. If Jessica thought she could manipulate me, she was wrong. She might have lied to my face and gotten away with it for a while, but not anymore. Every step I took now was calculated, deliberate. I was going to outsmart her, no matter what it took. When I pulled into the driveway, the house was dark. She had gone to bed, as if nothing had happened. I felt a surge of disgust at how easily she could shut off her emotions. But it didn't matter. By morning, she'd wake up to a completely different reality. I quietly entered the house, careful not to wake her. I wasn't planning to argue anymore, there was no point. I grabbed a few essentials and headed to the guest room at the far end of the house. The door clicked shut behind me, separating me from her for one of the last times. The guest room felt unfamiliar, like a place I didn't belong, but that was fine. This was temporary. I was just putting the pieces in place. Before I went to bed, I pulled out my phone and looked at the messages between Jessica and Matt again. The way she laughed with him, shared things with him that she hadn't shared with me in years. I took screenshots of everything, every disgusting detail, every damning word. I wasn't going to let her escape this unscathed. As I lay down, the weight of the night pressing down on me, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of calm. The storm wasn't over, but I wasn't in the center of it anymore. Now I was the one steering it, and Jessica had no idea what was coming. By tomorrow, the reckoning would begin, and this time, I'd be ready. I woke up to the dull sound of rain still tapping against the windows. The guest room felt distant and cold, unfamiliar, yet somehow comforting in its separation from Jessica. I hadn't slept much, but adrenaline had kept me going through the night. Now, as I stared at the ceiling, the weight of everything settled over me again, but this time I wasn't drowning in it. I felt sharp, focused. I could hear faint sounds from the other side of the house. Jessica was awake. It was only a matter of time before she came looking for me. I had already decided I would remain calm, composed. I wasn't going to let her emotions dictate how this played out. I sat up and grabbed my phone. The screenshots of her messages with Matt were still open. I scrolled through them again, reminding myself why I couldn't give in, why this wasn't just another argument that could be smoothed over with empty words. It was deeper than that. She had crossed a line, and there was no going back. There was a knock at the door. Tom, her voice was careful, like she was testing the waters. "Are you in there?" I stayed quiet for a few moments, making her wait. I wanted her to feel the weight of the door between us. Finally, I stood up and opened it. There she was, standing in the hallway. Her hair still damp from a quick shower, makeup hastily reapplied. She looked like she was trying to reset the scene, as if looking put together would somehow change what had happened. Her eyes scanned my face, trying to read me, but I gave her nothing. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice soft, almost pleading. It was a tone I hadn't heard in a long time. The Jessica I had known was always in control, sharp, sometimes even cold, but now she was uncertain, wavering. I could see it. I didn't move from the doorway. "Talk." "Say." She fidgeted with the edge of her shirt, glancing down before meeting my eyes again. "Tom, I'm sorry about last night. I didn't mean for things to get so out of hand. I was upset, and I said things I shouldn't have." I raised an eyebrow, waiting for her to say more, but she didn't get specific. She was fishing for sympathy, hoping I'd let her off easy by glossing over the details. I wasn't falling for it. "That's it?" I asked, my voice steady. "That's your apology?" She blinked, surprised. I know I messed up, I know what I did was wrong, but tearing up the marriage certificate, Tom, you didn't have to do that." I cut her off, my patience wearing thin. "You think that's the problem? That I tore up some piece of paper? You think that's why we're here?" She bit her lip, her calm facade cracking as frustration seeped in. "I made a mistake, okay? I admitted that. But you're acting like this is the end of the world. It was just one night." "Stop," I said, my voice louder than I intended. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay controlled. "Just one night? It's not about the night, Jessica. It's about the lies. About you sneaking around behind my back and treating me like an idiot." She opened her mouth to argue, but I wasn't finished. "You think I didn't hear you last night? On the phone with him? Laughing, saying I'd come crawling back, like I'm some kind of joke to you." Her eyes widened, and for the first time, I saw real fear flash across her face. She hadn't expected me to hear that conversation. She thought she could spin this situation the way she always had. She started, but I raised a hand, cutting her off. "No more excuses, Jess. I've had enough. You've spent months, maybe longer, lying to me, pretending everything was fine while you were with him." My voice hardened. "And now you stand here and try to act like it's no big deal, like I'm overreacting." She stepped closer, her voice trembling now. Tom, please, I didn't want to hurt you. I don't know what I was thinking. It just happened. But we can fix this. We can go to therapy. We can talk. I let out a bitter laugh. Therapy? You think therapy is going to fix what you did? This isn't something you can just talk your way out of, Jessica. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it. She was desperate now. I could see the cracks in her facade growing wider, her control slipping away. Please, Tom, I know I screwed up, but we've been together for so long. Don't throw everything away over this. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so every word would hit her hard. You threw it away the moment you chose him over us. For the first time, she had no response. Tears welled in her eyes, and she looked away, unable to meet my gaze. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on both of us, the finality of it sinking in. I could have left then. I could have walked away, leaving her standing there in her guilt. But there was one last thing she needed to understand. I'm not just walking away, Jessica, I said, my voice quiet but firm. I'm going to make sure you feel every consequence of this. You're not walking away from this unscathed. Her head snapped up, panic filling her face. Wait, your lawyer. Tom, no, you don't have to do this. We can work it out. Please, just give me a chance. I shook my head. You had your chance, Jessica. You had 1,000 chances, but you chose to betray me. I'm done giving you more. She reached out, trying to touch my arm, but I stepped back, letting her hand fall uselessly to her side. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, she whispered, her voice breaking. We can work it out without lawyers, without destroying everything. I really looked at her for the first time in a long time. The woman standing in front of me wasn't the person I had married. Maybe she never had been. And as much as it hurt, I realized I didn't care anymore. The love I had for her had been chipped away, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. This is already destroyed, I said coldly. And you did that, Jess, not me. I turned and walked away, leaving her standing in the doorway, her tears finally spilling over. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. This wasn't about saving what was broken. It was about putting an end to it. The rain had stopped by the time I stepped outside, but the air was heavy with the aftermath of the storm. I stood there for a moment, breathing it in, feeling the weight of everything lifting, bit by bit. I wasn't free yet, but I was getting closer. As I drove off, my phone buzzed on the passenger seat. A message from Mike, I'm outside. Ready whenever you are, I smiled to myself, feeling the first real sense of relief I'd had in what felt like years. The reckoning had begun. By the time I pulled up to the house again, Mike was already there, leaning against his car, arms crossed. His expression was serious, no jokes or half smiles this time. He understood how big this was. He gave me a nod as I stepped out of the car, but he didn't speak right away. He didn't need to. He could see it all written on my face. How bad is it? He asked finally, his voice low, as though he didn't want to disturb the fragile calm before the next storm. Worse than I thought, I replied, leaning against the hood of my car. I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. She's been cheating, Mike, with some guy. I found out last night, caught her coming out of his place. Mike exhaled, shaking his head. Man, I'm sorry. I can't imagine what that was like. What's the plan now? I looked at him, that same cold clarity I'd felt all night settling over me again. I'm not letting her get away with this. I've already talked to Ben. I'm filing for divorce, but I'm staying in the house. She's going to make this ugly, and I'm not giving her a head start. Mike nodded, his expression hard. You're right to stay. Don't give her any room to turn this on you. I pushed off the car, feeling the adrenaline burn through me again. I need to grab my stuff, set up in the guest room for now. I don't want to be near her, but I'm not letting her say I abandoned her. Mike straightened up. I've got your back. Let's get this done. We headed inside, and as soon as the door closed behind us, the air felt heavy. Jessica wasn't in sight, but I knew she was still there, lurking like a shadow in the corners, watching, waiting. Let's move quickly, I muttered to Mike. We went straight to the bedroom, the one I'd shared with Jessica for years. Now, it felt like enemy territory. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and started packing my clothes. Mike stood by the door, his eyes scanning the room like a guard, making sure she didn't sneak up on us. It was ridiculous how tense everything felt, but this was the new reality. The woman I had loved, trusted, was now someone I had to outsmart, outmaneuver. As I packed, I couldn't help but glance around the room. The room was filled with memories, photos, mementos from trips we had taken together, now just hollow reminders of a life that no longer existed. "Are you taking any of this?" Mike asked, pointing to a picture from our honeymoon, a time when everything seemed full of promises and smiles. I shook my head, unable to even glance at it. "No, let her keep it. It means nothing now." As we were finishing up, the door creaked open, and there she was, Jessica, her face pale, eyes red from crying, but still defiant. The way she looked at me, like I was the one responsible for tearing everything apart, made my blood boil. "You're really going through with this, aren't you?" she asked, her voice shaky, though tinged with accusation. "You're just going to walk away from everything we built?" I zipped the duffel bag with a sharp pull, refusing to meet her gaze. "I'm not walking away. I'm making sure I don't get dragged down with you." Her eyes flashed with anger. "This is all because of one mistake? You're going to throw away our entire marriage over one stupid night?" I snapped, finally turning to face her. "One night? This wasn't just one night, Jessica. You've been lying to me for who knows how long, and then you laughed about it with him, like it was some sort of game. You don't get to stand there and act like I'm the one destroying everything." Mike stepped forward, sensing the tension building, but I raised my hand, stopping him. This was my battle. Jessica crossed her arms, her lips trembling. "I've already told you, Tom. It didn't mean anything. I love you, not him. Can't we fix this?" I looked at her, this woman I had once planned to spend my life with, and felt nothing but cold, distant anger. Her words meant nothing now. Her love, her apologies, they were all worthless. She was playing the part of the regretful wife, trying to pull me back with the same tired script. But I wasn't falling for it. "No, Jess, we can't fix this." "You can't fix this," I said, my voice steady, final. "I'm filing for divorce. It's over." Her face crumpled for a moment, and I thought she might cry. But then, just as quickly, her expression shifted, the cold mask sliding back into place as her defenses rose again. "Fine," she said, her voice flat, emotionless. "Do what you have to do, but don't think this will be easy for you. You want a war, Tom. You'll get one." There it was, the real Jessica, the one who would fight tooth and nail to get what she wanted, no matter the cost. "I'm ready for whatever you've got," I replied, locking eyes with her. "But don't forget you're the one who started this." She didn't answer, just stared at me with hardened eyes before turning and walking out of the room, her footsteps echoing down the hallway, fading into silence. Mike let out a long breath, shaking his head. "Man, she's ruthless. You sure you're ready for this?" I slung the duffel bag over my shoulder, feeling the weight of everything my past with her, the fight that lay ahead settling on me. But instead of being crushed by it, I felt steady. "I have to be," I said quietly. "I'm not giving her an inch. She's going to feel every bit of this." Mike clapped me on the shoulder. "All right then, let's get this done." We moved my things to the guest room, setting up a temporary space for me to stay while we figured out the logistics of the divorce. The house felt like a battlefield now, every room charged with tension, every sound amplified by the hostility between us. But I wasn't going anywhere, not until I had secured everything I needed. After we finished, Mike headed out, giving me one last nod of support before leaving me alone to face the house and Jessica. I stood in the guest room for a while, staring at the walls, thinking about what came next. This was just the beginning. Jessica wasn't going to back down without a fight, she had made that clear, but neither was I. As I lay down on the unfamiliar bed, a strange calm settled over me. I had spent so long in the fog of her lies, but now everything was clear. The war had started, and I wasn't going to lose. No matter what Jessica threw at me, I was ready. The days that followed felt like living in the eye of a storm. The house was tense, filled with a suffocating atmosphere that made it seem like everything could shatter at any moment. I stayed in the guest room, avoiding Jessica as much as I could. We moved around the house like strangers, barely making eye contact, each of us avoiding the other. Every corner of the place seemed weighed down by 1,000 unspoken words, 1,000 broken promises. But the real fight was happening in the background. I had met with Ben, my lawyer, again, and we had laid out the strategy. I wasn't just going to walk away. I was going to make sure I didn't lose the house, my financial security, or everything I had worked for. This wasn't going to be a quick, clean divorce. Jessica wanted a war, and I was prepared to give her one. Still, there was a nagging feeling that it wasn't just me who would suffer. There was something Jessica hadn't considered, or maybe she had. Either way, the collateral damage would extend beyond just the two of us. I hadn't told my parents yet. They adored Jessica. From the very beginning, they had seen her as the perfect daughter-in-law, always polite, always put together. How would they react when they found out what she'd done? Would they even believe me? I dialed my mom's number, my chest heavy with dread. The phone rang a few times before she answered, her warm voice cutting through the silence. "Tom, it's so good to hear from you, honey. How are you?" I hesitated, the words sticking in my throat. How was I supposed to tell her? How could I explain everything without breaking down? "Mum, there's something I need to talk to you about," I began, my voice shaky despite my best efforts. "It's about Jessica." There was a pause on the other end of the line, and I could almost hear her brain shifting gears. "Is everything all right, Tom? You don't sound like yourself." I took a deep breath. "No, Mum, it's not all right." I swallowed, trying to push the words out. "Jessica's been cheating on me. For a while, I think. I found out a few days ago." The silence stretched on so long I thought maybe the call had dropped. Then I heard her take a shaky breath. "Oh, Tom, I don't know what to say. Are you sure? I mean, are you really sure?" "I'm sure," I said flatly. "I've seen the messages. I've seen everything." Another pause. Then she spoke again, her voice softer now but edged with something sharp. "I just can't believe it. She always seemed so devoted to you. Are you okay? What are you going to do?" "I've already filed for divorce," I said, the words carrying a mix of empowerment and pain. There was no undoing this now. She wasn't the person I thought she was, and I wasn't going to let her get away with what she'd done. My mum was silent for a moment before she let out a deep sigh, heavy with disappointment and sadness. "I'm so sorry, honey. I know how much you loved her. I'm so sorry." "Me too, Mum," I replied, feeling the weight of those words. After hanging up, I felt a strange blend of relief and exhaustion. Telling my mum was the first step in tearing down the illusion that Jessica had constructed not only around me, but around everyone who knew her. Now, the truth would come crashing down. Later that day, I sat in the guest room, staring at my phone. There was another conversation I couldn't avoid: Jessica's family, especially her brother Kyle. Over the years, Kyle had become a close friend of mine, and despite everything, I knew he deserved to know what was going on. I hesitated for a long time before finally texting him. "Hey Kyle, I need to talk to you. It's important. Can we meet up?" The reply came quickly. "Kyle, of course, man. What's going on? Is everything okay with you and Jess?" I stared at his message, bitterness rising inside me. He had no idea who his sister really was. "It's complicated. I'll explain when we meet." We agreed to meet at a bar that evening, a neutral spot where I could lay everything out. As I drove there, my mind raced with everything that had happened. Part of me dreaded the conversation. Kyle wasn't just Jessica's brother, he was someone I had come to trust. But I couldn't lie to him. He deserved the truth, no matter how ugly it was. When I walked into the bar, Kyle was already seated, a beer in front of him. He waved me over, his usual friendly grin on his face, but as soon as I sat down, he seemed to sense something was off. His smile faded, replaced with concern. "Tom, what's going on? You look like you've been through hell." I swallowed, trying to find the words. "Kyle, there's no easy way to say this, so I'm just going to say it." I took a deep breath. "Jessica's been cheating on me. For a while." His eyes widened, shock and disbelief flooding his face. "No, that can't be right. Jess wouldn't do that. You must be mistaken." "I'm not," I interrupted, my voice firmer than I felt. "I caught her. I saw the messages, the pictures. It's real, Kyle." He shook his head slowly, clearly struggling to process what I had just told him. "I don't even know what to say, man. I never saw this coming. I mean, Jess, she's my sister. She always seemed so committed to you. Are you sure there's no way to fix this?" I met his eyes directly. "There's no fixing this. I've already filed for divorce." "It's over?" Kyle leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "Damn, I don't know what to say. I'm sorry, man. I know this has to be tearing you apart." "It is," I admitted, my voice raw. "But there's no going back now. I just wanted you to hear it from me, not from her or anyone else. He nodded, his expression hardening with a mix of sadness and anger. I appreciate that. I'll talk to her, but honestly, I don't even know what I'd say to her right now. We sat in silence for a while after that, sipping our drinks as the weight of the conversation hung between us. It wasn't just my marriage that was falling apart. Jessica's actions were sending ripples through everything, pulling others into the mess she had created. As I left the bar that night, the full gravity of the situation sank in. This wasn't just about me and Jessica anymore. It was about everyone around us, the relationships we'd built over the years. They were all going to feel the fallout. But that wasn't on me. Jessica had made her choices, and now we all had to live with the consequences. When I got back to the house, it was dark and quiet. Jessica was in the bedroom, the door closed, and for once, I welcomed the silence. I sat down on the couch, staring out the window at the rain-slicked streets, thinking about everything I had lost and everything I still had to fight for. This war wasn't over, not by a long shot, but I was ready for whatever came next. The days passed in a blur, filled with tension and silence, both heavy with the weight of what had been broken. Jessica and I barely spoke. When we did, it was short, sharp exchanges, cold and empty, like we were just handling business. The house felt like a battlefield, each of us occupying separate corners, waiting for the other to make a move. I was counting down the days until I could finally leave for good, but I wasn't about to give her any advantage by walking out before the legal dust settled. She tried, more than once, to pull me back in, using the same manipulative charm she had mastered over the years. I could see it in her eyes, the calculation behind every word, the careful tone of remorse woven into her apologies. She'd catch me in the hallway, blocking my path with wide, tear-filled eyes. "Tom, please," she'd whisper, her voice trembling just enough to stir pity. "I made a mistake. We can still fix this. You don't have to do this. We've been through so much together." But I wasn't buying it anymore. Every time she tried to reel me back in, I saw the messages with Matt, heard her laughter on the phone, mocking me behind my back. The woman standing in front of me, begging for forgiveness, wasn't the woman I had married. Maybe she never had been. "Don't bother," Jess, I would say, brushing past her. "We're done." I knew what she was really doing. She was laying the groundwork, setting herself up to look like the victim. She wanted to twist the narrative so that, when everything blew up in court, she'd be the remorseful wife who had made a single, forgivable mistake, and I'd be the cold-hearted man who tore everything apart. But it wasn't going to work. I had the evidence. I had the truth. The day finally came when the divorce papers arrived. I had been expecting them, but when the courier handed me the envelope, there was still a moment of hesitation. This was it, the final blow, the end of everything we had built together. But I didn't feel sadness or regret anymore. I just felt empty. I opened the envelope at the kitchen table, the papers sliding out with a weight that felt almost theatrical. The formal language, the sterile tone, it all made the reality even clearer. Our life together had been reduced to a few sheets of paper, signatures, and legal jargon. I sat there for a long time, just staring at the papers. Jessica was in the living room, pretending to read a magazine, though I could feel her eyes on me, watching closely from the corner of her vision. She hadn't said a word since the papers arrived, and she didn't need to. The silence between us was louder than any words could be. I could hear her shifting in her seat, waiting for me to react, to say something. But I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. This wasn't her moment anymore, it was mine. I picked up a pen and flipped to the signature page. With a swift stroke, I signed my name, the ink sinking into the paper like the final nail in the coffin. There was no immediate sense of relief, but I felt a weighty finality, like I'd just closed a chapter of my life that had dragged on too long. Standing up, I walked into the living room, holding the papers in my hand. Jessica looked up at me, her eyes scanning my face for any hint of weakness, any opening she could exploit. Without saying a word, I handed her the papers. Her hands trembled slightly as she took them. "You really want this?" she asked, her voice a mixture of disbelief and a hint of panic. "You really want to end it like this?" I looked down at her, feeling nothing but the cold reality of what we had become. "It's already over, Jess. This is just the paperwork." Her face twisted, a mix of anger and tears threatening to spill over. "You're making a mistake, Tom. You'll regret this. You're throwing away everything." I met her gaze, unwavering. "No, Jessica. You're the one who threw everything away. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it. Her face flushed with anger, her eyes narrowing. You think you're so righteous, so above it all? Fine, but don't think this is going to be easy for you. I'll fight you every step of the way. You want a war? Let's have one. I could feel the venom in her words, the bitterness that had been building beneath the surface finally spilling out. This wasn't about saving our marriage anymore, it was about power and control. She wasn't going to let me leave without a fight. But I was prepared. I'm not scared of you, Jess, I replied calmly, my voice steady. I've been ready for this, and I'm not backing down. You can try to make it as messy as you want, but it won't change the fact that it's over. Her lips twisted into a sneer. We'll see about that, she spat, clutching the papers like a weapon before storming out of the room without another word. I watched her go, feeling the tension drain from the house with every step she took. It was truly over this time. The rest of the day passed in a strange, quiet haze. The house felt unnaturally still. I didn't see Jessica again. She stayed in the bedroom, probably plotting her next move, but I didn't care. My part in this was done. I had played my role, and now it was time to leave the game behind. That night, I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling as the soft hum of the city filled the silence. For the first time in weeks, a sense of calm crept in. It wasn't exactly happiness or relief, not yet, but it was the start of something new, the start of freedom. I didn't know what the future would hold, and I was certain that the divorce proceedings would get ugly. Jessica would make sure of that, dragging it out and trying to take as much as she could. But none of that mattered anymore. I was done being afraid of what she could do. I was finished playing by her rules. The storm had passed, and I was still standing. As I closed my eyes, the weight of everything lifted from my shoulders. I knew one thing for sure: this was the end of her control over me and the beginning of something better. The last battle had been fought, and now it was time to rebuild on my own terms,